Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to know that you are watching Canal the International. It's exactly at 6:15 and time for the English version of the news. It's a prime time news in the English language on Canal the International. Our top stories. 2 years after the holding of the major national dialogue to resolve the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, political analysts are in tears, describing it as total failure. And the population of the southwest region got up with the sad news that of the death of the Secretary General at the Southwest Governor's Office, Dr. Muhammadu, passed away early this morning following a brief illness. And today, September 30, is being observed as the International Translation Day, holding at a time when most public services in Cameroon are in high need of qualified translators. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. 2 years after the holding of the major national dialogue to resolve the ongoing conflicts in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon, political analysts are in tears, describing it as total failure. According to observers of Cameroon's political scene, resolutions have created little or no impact. As we hear the following story. September 30, 2021 marks exactly 2 years since Cameroon held its major national dialogue to solve the Anglophone secession crisis that has killed thousands of people in 5 years, according to human rights reports.
It was a failure. We're being driven into a mirage, and you agree with me that 2 years today, after that dialogue, nothing has changed. The northwest and the southwest still continue to bleed in blood. Arms are still shootings, and the strategy even has changed.
Another school of thought thinks it's the exact opposite.
The special status has been created. The bilingual commission has been put in place. The Center for Rehabilitation of those who took up arms, who are ready to repent, have been created to create an atmosphere of dialogue, because when they come to those centers, they are everybody, you have to tell the authorities that be what is their problem. And I feel the reconstruction.
According to political analysts, resolutions from the major national dialogue are far from creating impacts on the field.
We hear issues of a special status being given to the northwest and southwest. You hear of issues like the independent conciliator. You hear of that reconstruction plan has been put in place. But what actually has been on the ground that you see that you can be tempted to say that the major national dialogue was a success? No, it's a total failure, because we still continue to hear guns shooting. We see how the crisis has taken another twist with armed separatists using sophisticated weapons.
With the happenings on the ground, many have concluded that the major national dialogue was rather a public relations stunt.
The other problem which is still reigning and causing a lot of havoc is the Amazonian problem, which to me is different from the Anglophone problem. Because the Anglophone problem had a certain series of claims which are so far been taken care of. But the Amazon problem, which is independence, okay, those who think that the Anglophone area should be independent feel that it's only by the using of arms that they can succeed.
With a change of tactics from both separatists and the military and constant spraying of bullets, political analysts maintain the only solution is for government to embrace an inclusive dialogue to end the war in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. And the population of the southwest region of Cameroon got up this morning with the sad news that at the death of the Secretary General at the Southwest Governor's Office, Dr. Muhammadu, died early this morning following a brief illness. Ines Ondwambala tells us more.
The Secretary General at the Southwest Governor's Office is no more. Dr. Muhammadu died early September 30, 2021 in an hospital in Douala. Southwest population, local officials plus top-ranking personalities of the region are mourning the decease.
We, all of us, learn of passing away of the Secretary It is a pathetic situation, a very sad situation, because he was administrative machinery of my services, coordinating all the regional services. He was young, dynamic, civil servant with a bright future. Express all our condolences to the young ladies and the little children.
The last call I received from the late Inspector General was Monday evening, Monday night. They called to congratulate me following my re-election as section president, and it was somebody who knew how to keep people together and he knew how to keep relations. We can only pray the good Lord to grant his gentle soul.
I spoke with him 2 days ago, and just to get up this morning and just to hear that he's vast. And we don't know whether we'll ever have a regional boss like him, second in command like him. He receives everybody at any time. He receives everybody at any time.
Born on August 7, 1976, Dr. Muhammadu was a native of Mokolo in the far north region of Cameroon. He will be remembered for his high sense of humility, simplicity, generosity, availability, and hard work.
He was a very nice person, good collaborator, hardworking, always happy.
It's very sad news for us. We got up this morning with this, and honestly, we are very devastated.
We are definitely devastated because we see it as untimely.
The death of Dr. Muhammadu has left chiefs, collaborators, family members under shock and consternation. Muhammadu has left behind a wife and 2 kids. He was largely seen as of the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development in the Southwest region.
Cameroon joined the rest of the world today, September 30, to observe the international translation day, holding at a time when most public services in Cameroon are in dire need of qualified translators able to blend public documents in the 2 official languages, that is English and French. Among the public institutions in Cameroon in dire need of language experts is the Ministry of Justice, which today urged the powers that be to train more translators. Heinz Cha completes that story.
At the Cameroon Ministry of Justice, like the rest of Cameroon public institutions, effective translation of documents for public consumption from French to English and vice versa is still far-fetched.
We need a corps of specialized translators. For example, in the Ministry of Justice, we use law. Imagine a translator or an interpreter who does not have a law background. It's difficult for him to translate in the Ministry of Justice.
Presiding over the commemoration of the International Translation Day at the Ministry of Justice under the theme, Unity in Translation, the Minister Delegate at the Ministry of Justice underlines the progress made in the promotion of bilingualism in their ministerial department and different legal units across the country.
Here at the Ministry of Justice, we evolved from a translation office to a translation unit. From 2019 till date, 33 young translators have been posted to our court.
But the cry for more translators resounded, especially translators with English as their first language.
We really need English-speaking translators in Cameroon. There are very few of them. Usually and generally, what we notice is that out of 10 translators who are in training schools, at least 8 are French-speaking and only 2 are English-speaking.
The occasion was equally a forum for the National Commission for the promotion of bilingualism and multiculturalism to examine their strifes so far and sit up to make bilingualism an asset in Cameroon.
And how can translators help in resolving the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon? We caught up with Director of the Professional Translation and Interpretation Editing Center with headquarters in Cameroon's economic city, Douala, Pascal Mukata. Take a listen.
The Official Translation Association in Cameroon, APTIC, has made several overtures to government. We have written to government that we are here, use us. We've told them domains that can be used. It's true that it's a difficult process, but government has started listening because recently there has been intake of translators, and I think most recently the president requested for recruitment of 500 translators. I think just a few weeks ago, translators were dispatched. Following the last recruitment, were dispatched in various means. It's a slow process, but we are getting there. I'll give you an example. Cameroon is not the only bilingual country in the world. There's Canada. There are other countries that are bilingual countries, Switzerland and so on. You don't have problems, linguistic issues that lead up to wars and everything. Why? Because they've understood the role of communication. Translators are just communicators. And what we do is simply facilitate the communication process. I can assure you that if translators were used in domains such as law, legislation, which is something that happens in Canada every day, Switzerland the same. Laws are drafted both by legislators, lawyers, and they include translators so that you don't have divergent versions, systems where there's conflict. Translators we serve as a bridge. If the government can recognize our role, honestly, there will be so much there will be peace. There will be peace because we have been neglected. Our role has been diminished. We have been relegated to the background. There is no reason, for example, in Cameroon, why it would take weeks, months, and years to get a text in English after the French version has been produced. There's no reason. There's no reason, because even the ministries that produce this text in French, they have translators. They are not being used.
The technical guidelines of the Integrated Disease Surveillance and Multi-Hazard Preparedness and Response Plan for Public Health Emergency is now official. The third edition was presented by the Minister of Public Health in order to meet health requirements, as we hear with a student journalist in Yaoundé.
The Cameroon first ever multi-hazard preparedness weapon is finally here.
I hereby officially present to you the third edition of the technical guideline of the Integrated Disease Surveillance and Response and the first ever national multi-hazard preparedness and response plan for public health emergency.
These documents identify the defined key stakeholder roles and responsibilities and operational processes for outbreak investigation before, during, and after an emergence in line with diseases like cholera, COVID-19, monkeypox, chickenpox, and many others, fruits of collaboration between Cameroon and the United States of America.
These strategic documents resulted from a strong collaboration between the U.S. CDC and the Cameroon Ministry of Public Health in establishing a robust surveillance system and emergency management and response framework.
Cameroon can now boast for an additional toll in the fight against pandemics and epidemics.
With U.S. government support, Cameroon has a functional Public Health Emergency Operations Center, PHEOC, that coordinates public health emergency management for all hazards.
During the adoption ceremony this September 29, Minister Malauda Malashi unveils the plan of functionality of the health document within the national territory.
We are going to disseminate this document in the field so our staff can use it, can explain and apply the directives.
The initiatives is expected to boost Cameroon's response to public health emergency, including all hazard as required by the international health regulations.
And the Minister of Housing and Urban Development has called on Cameroonians to mobilize for a successful organization of the World Habitat Day come October 4, 2021. Minister Cliquez made a call for the media to sensitize Cameroonians on the Cameroon is expected to host the 2021 edition of World Habitat Day. An excerpt of the Minister's declaration at yesterday's conference. Hi, Sincha. Frustrations and difficulties that come with the absence of a ferry over the River Jar will soon be a thing of the past. The coming of a new ferry is expected to facilitate movement across the dreaded river. As we hear the following story. On board this vessel, codenamed Santa Maria, is a ferry destined for the population of the East region, precisely the Ngoila Council. The ferry will be moored on River Jar to transport goods and persons across the dreaded river. According to reports, the lone ferry got bad, with the end result a population seeking other means of survival. Ferry that arrives at the Douala port September 29 gives hopes to the initiators of brighter days ahead.
Ferry is a boat, okay? And just like a crossing the river. There's a river which is called East region, and that ferry will be used to help people to cross the river, and it's an heavy issue because ferry back is something that can replace the bridge.
Thanks to his association, renowned animator Pascal Pierre was able to mobilize efforts beginning from Germany, where the ferry is coming from, right up to Cameroon. He says it was not an easy task, especially when you had to put the interests of the people first.
That ferry back has been used for several years in Germany to cross, to join the country, two countries, which is Oberbelek in Germany and Meter in Luxembourg. So the ferry back was joining the two countries. People were crossing, and that ferry back is 50 years old.
The ferry is large enough to transport 200 people at a go, including 4 vehicles, giving it a total weight ton of at least 40 tons. There are hopes the ferry over the Jar in the East region will help boost economic activities and ameliorate living conditions of the people. The Bamon people across Cameroon and in Douala in particular are still in pain after the disappearance of their king. Some of these are back. They are expressing different ways to mourn their king. As we end the following story with Saleh Sharifa.
After the departure of the Sultan, the Bamon people in Great Depression and lamentation mourn him in different cultural and traditional ways. According to habits and custom, this lamentation and distress is experienced by wearing fibers made from raffia leaves on their wrists.
Monday, after the official announcement by the notability, I feel weak, feel very weak. After wearing seriously, I am relieved.
Unfortunately for some elites out of the Fumban settlement, it's hard to get the traditional armband.
It means the people manifest his sadness. Okay, the people wearing the dirt, they disappearing because Bamon people say the king never died. The king disappeared. Every Bamon should wearing the raffia band. It's difficult. We know we are in cosmopolitan town. Okay, it's difficult to have a raffia band here in Douala. But I called somebody to Fumban to send me my raffia band.
The king of the Bamoun is the guardian of the ancestral tradition. According to the ancestral Bamoun culture and tradition, the king does not die. He turns around to say that he has disappeared, which is announced through Ngwon, which is a secret society.
And that report by Saleh Sharifa brings us to the end of this edition of Newscast in the English language on Canal International. But don't go away for half news in the French language coming up at exactly 7:50. This never Senkan with Alain Ghislain Kanga. But coming up next is the brief with Leo Piejou. As for me, I'll be back tomorrow for another edition. Good night.